Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 488, and today we're doing Battle in a Ruthless Rumble. And so, I feel a little bit better about the Ruthless Rumbles since our initial video that we posted yesterday. I did have a bit of a hiatus at the beginning of this patch, and so I didn't feel super comfortable with what was going on, but I feel a little bit better about the format now, and I'm ready to present the list, or the lineup, I should say, that I'll probably play the remainder of the weekend in the Rumbles, and will probably take to the Open here in about a week. Also, speaking of the competitive best of three, I wish I'd mentioned it earlier, but if you watch this video, as soon as it's released, you probably have 2 or 3 hours to go and jump in Gregory the Gray's event over at the Mastering Runeterra Discord or the Mastering Runeterra site. He has taken the helm as they're kind of refiguring out what they want to do with their opens, and he has organized and led an open event over there. And so I wanted to bring that up because the results of that are the only kind of crazy thing that may make me change my idea on this lineup. And so we'll have to wait and check out the results of that. But nonetheless, we're getting long-winded here at the start. I will say we're going to play Teemo Sejuani, we're going to play Vayne Jarvan, and we're going to play Jax Ornn. If you want to skip ahead to the gameplay, feel free. We're going to stop and talk about best of three a little bit here before we dive in. And so, yeah, as far as this format goes, it's kind of interesting in the sense that I feel like 100% of the lineup should play Janna. We're not playing Janna, but they should, right? And then I feel like 100% of the lineup should ban Janna, and we're also not planning on banning Janna. We're doing bullshit like playing Teemo, right? And so this has got to be kind of one of the off-the-wall style of opens. I'm going against all of my best knowledge and all of my best strategies that I could come forth and just doing everything wrong with this one. But it kind of is what it is with this format. I feel like we're taking advantage of the strongest things that you can be doing. Those strongest things be doing is Omen Hawk along with Glacial Saurian, and that's featured in all of our lineups. And so that's what we're really trying to do, right? I still don't feel like we have a spectacular matchup against Janna, but the thing I feel like we can do with this one is have a little bit of a better matchup. And so while everything into Janna in the previous set was like at best like a 50% matchup, I feel like things now are a little bit better with our additions of things like Omen Hawks and all of our decks, and them being able to block some of the elusives coming out of that deck. It gives us a little bit of an edge, a little bit more time to kind of come in and pop off. And so, again, we're going to be leaving Janna up. The kind of problematic decks we'll run into are the ones that are kind of focused on outdoing the mid-rangey matchups. And so things like Shen Jarvan are bad, Ashe Leblanc is bad. We can run into some issues with things like Annie Gen. Teemo does not want to play against Annie Gen, but we'll probably never end up banning that one. And then some of the mid-rangey decks can be problematic. So things like Darius Nar aren't super ideal. They're most certainly winnable, but they're probably in that window of like 45% to 55% win rates. It's just kind of closer to the 45%. So it's not like a matchup that I'm afraid to play or feel like I must ban. It's just something that's not quite as good. It's those really like high powered, if we're not going to do anything, if we're just going to fuck around for a bunch of turns, then I'm going to outright win the game kind of decks that you get out of Ashe LeBlanc and you get out of Shen Jarvan that we just can't beat. It's kind of like, do you want to bring Poppy Tarek into a format, right? If we're just going to stare back and forth and decide who can do the most powerful thing on turn 7, Poppy Tarek just like annihilates those kind of matchups, and those are what we don't really want to be playing against. And so we can bring up the deck lists real quick. Teemo Sejuani, this is our take on Teemo Sejuani. What has happened with this is I've really wanted to play Omen Hawk and Glacial Saurian in all of our decks. I've become quite happy with it. And as we were playing, like, well, I don't think I played Teemo Caitlyn in a video individually. I played it in the last Ruthless Rumble I did, and I was happy with it. But in playing Teemo Caitlyn, the thing I started to realize is like, why are we playing all these Caitlyn cards, right? It makes a little bit of sense in the idea that if we're playing against Janna, and Janna's drawing a bunch of cards and playing a bunch of low health units, the flashbangs can just clear out their board, and so the advantages Janna would get, like drawing 3 cards in a turn and putting a bunch of Windborn Mariners on the board, you can kind of cancel that with the flashbang traps. But at the end of the day, those cards all kind of suck, right? Like outside of Caitlyn having those opportunities in the mid-rangey matchups to just like strike 7 damage because of her level 2, I wasn't too impressed with it. But I was thinking to myself, it's like, why aren't we just playing Sejuani, right? We could do things like cut out... we could cut out the Caitlyn's, we could cut out some of the flashbang support, and then just play Tusk Speaker and Sejuani, and it really ties into what we're trying to do with these things like the Omen Hawk and the way that these games with the Teemo decks typically sequence. And so we should be able to come out, get in some early game chip damage with the Overwhelms. Like with Teemo, I always say you're trying to deal like 8 or 10 damage with combat. You'll get in 2 to 4 damage with burn, and then you'll get the rest of the way there with puff caps. That's what we're trying to do with this. You're not going to actually come out and have any of these games to where you deal like 17 damage with puff caps. The big sources of damage that we have with this are going to be Glacial Saurian and Tusk Speaker and Sejuani crashing in overwhelm damage. We'll get in like 3 or 4 points of chip damage with the Mushroom Clouds, and then we'll deal like 6 damage with Karina. It's a more like overwhelming approach to this deck as opposed to the control decky versions we see now, which I think are garbage, and the more aggressive versions that we used to see in the past. The other kind of interesting thing that we get out of playing Teemo Sejuani is a couple of things. And so first and foremost, there are a lot of like decks that look very similar. And so there's Teemo Caitlyn, which has a lot of the flashbang package in it. It's much more control-y. And then there are versions of Teemo Sejuani running around. Like if you go to runeterra.ar and look up Teemo Sejuani, it's going to be a shitty Warden of the Tribes deck. And so I feel like we're going to get a lot of opportunities to where opponents read into this deck wrong and make picks and bans improperly because they don't exactly know what kind of list that we're bringing. And so I've had quite a bit of success with this. I've been quite happy with this idea of Omen Hawking and Saurioning and then having those bonuses go on to the Overwhelms, but then finishing off the games with the Puff Caps. So otherwise, nothing too crazy here. Rocket Barrage is our answer to Janna. I do like to have answers to Janna across all of our decks since we are going to be playing that matchup. It's only a singular copy, right? But I do like having a way to take her off of the board. Up next, we have Jax Ornn. This is the exact same list that we played in the previous video. Nothing too crazy here. We do have the Wildclaw Ferocities running through this list, the single copy of Buried in Ice, but you can see it carries on that same idea as the previous deck where we have the Omen Hawk and the Saurian and then the ways to come in and take advantage of them with the Overwhelms. Last but not least, we have Vayne Jarvan. I'm getting confused because I didn't play Vayne Jarvan. I played Vayne Jarvan in my last Rumble, but I didn't record it. But this is a deck that always has a home and always has a heart within our channel. Again, it does a lot of the same things as the Jax Ornn deck and the Teemo deck as to where we're trying to abuse Omen Hawk and Glacial Saurian. This style of deck also gets to include Weapon Master's Apprentice since we do have 9 equipment across the Darkened Spear and the Innovative Blacksmith and the Combat Cook, and so we have lots of ways to pass out those +1/+1 bonuses and use those stats to overwhelm the board. But what I'll say across all of these decks and what makes it very, very interesting to me is while they do all carry the Omen Hawk Saurian package and they do look to maximize the unit buffing, they all attack the opposing decks in different ways. So Teemo Sejuani can close out the game with puff caps. Jax Ornn is more of a kind of go tall style of thing to where Jax and Ornn comboing together kind of come in and bring that crashing and final blow. And then the way that you finish off games with Vayne Jarvan is a bunch of consecutive attacks in the same turn. And so what you'll end up finding us doing with this deck is making a big attack with a full board, and then we'll play a tumble onto a Night Ranger Defector and get a rally, and then we'll attack again a third time, and then maybe we Cataclysm a Glacial Saurian into a unit. We have a lot of ways to just kind of like machine gun a ton of damage in a single turn. And so I think it's very interesting in the sense that while these decks do all do the kind of overwhelm, Omen Hawk, Glacial Saurian kind of thing, they all have kind of different end games. And so opponents shouldn't be able to target down all of our decks with a single deck or a single lineup kind of thing. And so my ultimate concern with doing this is like if we're playing, say, Darius Gnar, and then we're playing, say, Vayne, like a Vayne Jarvan deck, and then another like Warden of the Tribe style closer. Those are all very similar in how they finish off the games. And so if your opponent really wants to beat Darius Gnar, then they accidentally just beat all of your decks. And we don't quite run into that since the strategies these decks are taking are different, even though they do have a lot of similarities across all three. And so that's it that's what we're doing battle with today, and we do have to pay the pay-to-win price. And I feel a little bit bad in that previous video. I didn't pay up on anything, and I've been wanting to get this anyways. I keep looking at this. We usually don't go so big in terms of paying the pay-to-win price this early, but I've been wanting to hit this Sejuani skin for so long. She feels like one of these champions, but she came out in the Rising Tides. Was that right? She came out with the Plunder set, Rising Tides. Maybe it was set 3. I'm pretty sure it was set 2, though. Just having that basic form the whole time. Sad for her, man, but not anymore. She's got her upgrades. She's got the what's this thing called? It's not Gnar. It's not Wolf. It has some kind of like, I don't know, Gristle. Is Gristle the name? It feels like Sejuani's wolf lion thing has some kind of, I don't know. It sounds gross. I'm pretty sure Gristle's what the name is there, but I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. What can I say? Ooh, but all right. Let's see what happens. Let's see what turns up. Quite happy with this Teemo Sejuani. I feel like we've come up with some like very good decks across the course of the past couple of seasons. I really like this Teemo Sejuani deck, and I feel like this is a great time for it to pop off. And then in the previous season, hitting on the Teemo Champion Strength deck with Janna. That was interesting. Like, as I started posting and memeing on the Champion Strength deck on Twitter, I guess whoever AJ the Pro's team was, or some other group of people, had kind of come up with the deck independently as well. And someone was upset, saying that there was a leak amongst the team channel and people were sharing their info. And I was like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know who you're talking about. I assure you, I'm not the one that picked up the deck list. I said, like, the inspiration for me with the Teemo Janna deck was What Am I's deck from Worlds last year. The triple champion strength lineup and the PNZ Jayce Lux thing, looking to use the Acorns and Daring Poros along with champion strength to finish off the games early. But nonetheless, fairly scary looking lineup from the opponent here. This is going to be a bit of a nightmare. We're going to have to kind of hope that we can double up on taking down Nasus, because these other matchups are not particularly good. I'm just going to go ahead and take out Ashe Leblanc. Ashe Leblanc is the one that has the most potential to just do scary shit really fast, and I feel like if we get a little bit of time to kind of grind out these games, then we'll have an opportunity for advantages. And so we'll take that one out. I'm not particularly excited about any of these matchups, but they are certainly manageable. All right, so let's kick things off here against Nasus Senna. We do want to find some early game stuff here to do, but the thing we'll say with this match is we're not going to come out and start making early trades, right? I'm going to play the Omen Hawk here. That's great. If opponent puts a random 2-1 on the board, we're just going to look at it, right? We're not going to actually make the trade. The way that this deck gets all of their advantages is getting through the slays, and so if we make it harder for them to actually get the slays, then we'll have the opportunity to enact our strategy. When my song ends, men die. So I'm not really excited about attacking into this Ceaseless Sentry. We'll give it a little bit more time. I'm kind of looking at this and saying, okay, well, we could make some overwhelm attacks here soon, and then maybe we'll throw a Mystic Shot at the Ceaseless Sentry as we're trying to get the combat damage in while not having units die. But at the moment, we did pick up this big boy. It's going to take a little bit of work to take him off the board, so we'll send him in. Hate Spike's fine. Does, kind of feel like you miss out on a little bit of damage not attacking with these other units, but I think that that's still the proper way to sequence that. We miss out on some damage, but the damage will come. As long as we're not getting beat up by Nasus, then we tend to be pretty okay in this space. Look at that Undying. He says, look at me, look at what I can do. And so with this, I'm not quite ready to get Sejuani on the board. She's very interesting in the sense that she is capable of completely shutting down Nasus. If she's flipped, then things get a little bit easier. If she's not flipped, she can still come down and deliver a Frostbite even through a Spell Shield. And so we'll keep her in hand just for the moment and see if she can't get a little bit more of a prime opportunity in a later turn. As far as this goes right here, was still good to say add in Chump Wump. Try and get this Sejuani up to the space to where she's going to be leveled.
Long road behind, long road ahead.
Now here, I'm going to make a bit of a dangerous play. I don't think he ever blocks the Tusk Speaker with Senna. It's just such a bummer if you have a combat trick, and this just like reeks of having one. Now, we do have the Mystic Shot in hand. It's not as perfect as a combat trick, but I don't think he makes this block very often. Looks like he's going to. Looks like he says no thank you. Good stuff. Now we got lots of angles, right? We don't really need to be doing combat damage anymore. And we're kind of in this space to where we can probably legitimately just puff cap him out of the game. But we'll see. I'm going to just start loading them up. We'll get the puff cap peddler in. We'll drop a couple mushroom clouds here. Might go ahead and drop a mystic shot to the face just to continue getting these additional damages on board. And then we can look to the Karina kill. But see, this is the kind of exact space I'm talking about with this deck, in the sense that while we may not be finishing this off with combat, we got him down to 8. That should be enough between like him drawing a couple more cards and then the Karina. He is light on puff caps at this point, but that's gonna ramp up really fast. Sure. Just gonna go ahead and drop it all. So I think we are going to have to open attack on this next turn, though. I worry. Well, it's tough. Like, there's a few different cards that they can come out and, like, recover with here, right? You can have Eradicate, which we don't care about. We have the Tusk Speaker, the Chump Wump behind. They can have Castigate, which kills all of our dudes, but we could still have Sejuani on board. And so if he Castigates into Sejuani, then we're still getting to deal a pretty healthy chunk of damage. And then if he has the Ruination, that hurts pretty bad, but it's not like a knockout blow or anything, right? He's still gotta fight through all of these puff caps. I think I'm still just gonna go with Sejuani. Like, it just has to specifically be Ruination for it to be a problem here. And so I think that she's safe. And again, like, if he Ruinations here, coming into next turn, what's he going to do? Play Nasus and not kill us? Like, I think this is still pretty safe. What do you say? Evil shall not set foot outside this cursed forest. This doesn't look like a forest. The burning ring ordains my unceasing vigil. Interesting. We'll bring it this way. He does have the Ruination. That's okay. He's got to fight through a fair number of puff caps here. He's about a damage a turn. So we should be fairly close to just getting a kill with Karina next turn. He can come in and add, or he can stop it with like the Rite of Negation, but I think this should be pretty close to doing it. Squeeze them cheeks, boys. 4 damage. Uh-oh. We're gonna have to make it through a couple draws, huh? Gonna have to make it through a couple draws. I hope you got those cheeks squeezed up, tightened, and ready. See what we can do. No, I mean, in the top 5 cards of his deck, there's 4 puff caps, and so if they're spread evenly, got a pretty good chance of hitting. There it is. Alright, GG. I know that was scary at the end, but that played out kind of how we anticipated, right? Even if they have the Ruination, they don't get to add anything. They play Nasus, we get Karina and block. A lot for them to fight through. So cool. Got a victory against this scary stuff, against these nasty Shadow Isles kind of units. Good to do, good to do. All right, up against Deep. Always a tough matchup. What do we got? Omen Hawk and nobody really interesting to go along with it. That's okay. We'll find someone eventually, I assure you. He'll turn up soon, I'm sure. But let's go ahead and attack. I want to get that point of damage in. It's very easy for him to just add the 2/3 to the board here, and I don't want to get canceled out of this combat. Oh, are you gonna Culling Strike the apprentice? Poor guy. Undergrowth, sure thing. There's the 2/3. Whoa, this is a very interesting attack. I'm definitely gonna throw the unit in front. Here. There we go. Very interesting attack. My thought with this is that he probably just has Quietus in hand, right? You want to play Quietus on the Weaponsmith's Apprentice. It needs to lose some stats, but that's a very very on the greedy end of the spectrum. Like, you can just sit around and not care for quite a while there. Immediately draws another Sea Scarab. Don't have anyone big enough to take it down. A bit of a bummer. Bit of a bummer. This curves out nicely here, though, now. The Combat Cook was the perfect addition, even getting popped by the Devourer. The Cook should be big enough to take the Sea Scarab off of the board. So he's already a 3/3, right? So he's going to go up to 4 health after this. I'm trying to decide if we want the Pan of Pain to make him a little bit more survivable. I don't think so. So we'll see if that Quietus comes down and blows up the Fish-a-Whack. If it doesn't, we do get these very nice attacks here, right? To where the Combat Cook's going to overwhelm 3 points of damage. And then next turn we can open and Jarvan will take down the Devourer. We get to crash in for 9 more. Gets us very close to finishing off here. And a Defector. Okay. It's always tempting as soon as you see him come down, but I feel like this attack is too good, especially if we're able to kind of develop a space here to where we build up to a Buried in Ice. Yeah, this is fine. The other kind of consideration we have is maybe playing the Defector. See, well, I guess the first part's like, does he attack with the Devourer of the Depths and let us pick up the equipment, and then put the equipment over onto the Defector? That would be pretty cool. I would appreciate that. Nope, not letting that happen. He is a big boy, though. How close is the deep? 8 away? 4 away now. Interesting. So what? It has to be a jettison? Alright, well, good to know, I guess. Like, why would you make that attack if you don't have jettison in your hand? Sure. So ideally here, like, we'll get a cheap unit to play, and then he'll drop something really expensive. And then we'll get to play Buried in Ice. I'm just... I don't think that's going to come together. We're going to have to go into the next turn. Going to take the Rake here. It does give us a potential to attack, but I feel like this is just going to be a Buried in Ice next round, and we'll try and win on the following turn. Interesting. I do play Nautilus. That's what you gotta ask for in this spot, right? You say, I just play Nautilus. Get it on board, get it down. Alright, Maokai comes in. You want to add somebody else? You want to get another dude on board? I'd appreciate it. There we go. He goes deep. I reveal my trap card. See how it goes. Do people say that when they play Yu-Gi-Oh? I'm not in the Yu-Gi scene, if you will. Coming out of the world of Magic, it's just the way the timing went. When I was a youth, I played Magic. Maybe if I had been a little bit younger, I would have played some Yu-Gi-Oh in my day. But that's the only thing I really know about Yu-Gi-Oh is you say, I reveal my trap card. Let's hope it's enough, though. There's no guarantees. I think we need to go with the scout attack here. I worry that, like, if we attack with everybody, and then he has a way to interact, we're kind of fucked, right? If he has a vengeance or 2 removal spells or something, we have the chance to outright lose. And if we don't win the game this turn, we're dead. And so we do have a bit of trouble here. I don't think Deep typically plays the Ruination. Looking at the opponent's lineup and how kind of like anti-mid-range they are, I wouldn't be 100% crazed, you know, if they had the Ruination within the mix, but I don't feel like it's probably on the table. We're going to be a damage short, aren't we? He's going to play a unit here, block the blacksmith, and then we can only hit for 6. Ugh. Interesting. Not sure what Jettison does in this space.
Hammer, tongs, anvil.
Just the giving up on it. The dang you got me bust. All right. GG. Oof. We got a victory squad. We got one team. We need them as well. Like I haven't decided how crazily I'm going to go in terms of trying to hit that second buy. Like last season, it was just a ton of fucking work, and I don't really want to do it again. We did kind of find out last season that if you jump into a daily rumble, not the Ruthless ones, the daily rumbles that'll come up here in like 2 days. If you play the first round, win, and quit, you get 4 trophies, right? So you get 4 trophies per win in that space. If you play the entirety of the thing, if you get 4 wins at the end of the rumble, you get 10 trophies for 2.5 trophies per win. And so since we're in this space to where, you know, gems don't really matter for a lot of people, like I feel like most of the like really competitive community that cares about hitting all of the buys, you don't really care about the gems. I mean, we have like 1.2 million gems. What do you care about, you know, giving up 800 gems when you have them in the millions? And so you just care about like time and efficiency, and the efficiency there is one win and quit. And if we have to do it, we have to do it. But ideally, we'll just have some good Ruthless Rumbles, and then we'll get those 25 trophies off of a few wins and be pretty close. I think I still need 75, so I'm pretty certain I'll get there. But I feel like last season I just spent like pretty much every evening, one match at a time. Like that last few hours I have in the evening, just grinding and grinding. And I will say those were some of the most tense matches I've played in a very long time. In the sense that it's like, you know, that you just I needed like 9 more trophies. It was fucking bullshit right at the end. Knowing that you have to like get 4 and then get 4 and then, you know, you still have to grind out that last 1 trophy to get there. It was fucking obnoxious. But those games, like being in those very final matches, just to be like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. We're tough. They were tense. Now, it's not to say they weren't fun. Like, I felt like the last season's format was very fun. I had a very good time doing it. It was a very good grind in terms of gameplay. It didn't feel bad, but it did feel kind of bad having to grind so hard to hit those buys, which aren't realistically even worth that much. So The thing that was interesting with the buys is like I think back in terms of Magic and in terms of what buys at Grand Prix used to get you, because there would be the cut into the second day, and a lot of times the it would like cut to the top 64 players, but in like a 900 player event, there would be like maybe for that last set of match scores, there might be 40 people vying for 20 spots, and your tiebreakers really mattered. And what would happen if you had 3 buys was you just didn't have opponents, and so the main tiebreaker was your opponent's match win percentage. And so what basically happens is you beat that opponent in the first round, and then they have to play another round. If they win the rest of the way, they still have kind of a lower win rate percentage, but if there's a good chance that maybe they just lose in their route, that person has a 0 match win for the entirety of the event. And then that person you beat in round 3, they're 1-2 at that, or 2-1 at that point. They have some negatives in there. Those players are just completely wiped off your record, and your opponent match win percentage was always super huge. Now that we're in the system in Runeterra with game win percentage being the important tiebreaker, it's not nearly as important. Like, I get why they've moved to that system. It's so that if I queue up into a game and the queue goes long and I'm 4-0 and our opponent's 3-1, it'll still pair us together. And you can't really have opponent match win percentage in that style of space. And so here, I played this guy yesterday. The Bandle City deck is elusives. I don't want to play against elusives. I'm fine to play against the Sun Disc and to play against Neeko Elites. And so we'll just take the elusives out of here. We can get our day started with a little bit of Jax Ornn. See how it goes. Make sure all the decks are represented in our video today. So what do we got? Reasonable enough start with an apprentice into a blacksmith. I'll hang on to those. And then we'll mulligan everything else away. Found a nice unit booster with the Omen Hawk. See what's up. Ooh, the double Omen Hawk.
Kindle picked me. That's why Smith.
All right, so I'm not going to open here. There's a reasonable chance they have a 2/2 for 2 mana here, and if that shuts down our attack for the turn, fine, whatever. But I think this one's going to be fine here. Let's keep the Weaponsmith's Apprentice back just in case he has the +2/+2 thing. I don't want to lose it as we're about to just like hyper up in terms of stats, and then we can just throw it away more readily next turn.
Tiny toads, giant snakes, nature's so cool.
All right, and so we are playing Jax Ornn. I'm just going to go with the Shepherd's Authority. Help us get our Jax leveled up a little bit quicker. And then we should have good blocks next turn. I always feel like playing against decks like Elites that, we can probably find the blocks later on. Taking the damage here isn't that big of a deal since they can't go over the top of what we're doing. Opposed to playing against, say, like some kind of Janna deck that has a bunch of burn in it. Now here, I really kind of want the Fischl Whack, but we're just going to lose our Combat Cook at that point. I'm kind of okay with it. I think Anura and Froop is probably like a high enough quality unit to where the trade doesn't feel that bad. And then we can still, of course, just put the equipment back onto the Weaponsmith's Apprentice or something. So maybe Overwhelm's the way to go. I think the probably second piece to that is we do have Ornn in our hand already, and so we would much prefer to put the Overwhelm equipment on Ornn as opposed to the Fearsome. Okay. Pretty healthy chunk of damage rolling through since he blocked with his 1 health unit. All kinds of bros coming down on the cheap though now. Alright, so I think this 1 block is probably good enough. The way I started running through my head is like, how do we lose this game? right? It's going to involve either Warden of the Tribes, which is way in the future, we don't have to worry about that, or it's going to be a Champion Strength, which we can potentially counter with Buried in Ice. And so I think we're fine in the sense of just getting a little bit of a block in here, but we do need to consider that Buried in Ice next turn. And so if we're going to have 6 mana, we need to take a 3 bank. We're only going to play Jax after this. But this should be fine. Fucking monster of a Jax. Look at how big he is. Getting those double Omen Hawks onto Jax feels pretty good. Alright, we'll stop there. Alright, in with the squad. The kind of bummer to Champion Strength is if we do, like, say he plays Champion Strength right after this, and then we Buried in Ice it, those units are going to come back the following turn with all of the stats. And so I think we can overwhelm through it. Like, Jax is big, Ornn has the level up already. Like, I think we're okay in that sense, but it's still pretty scary. And the floofs. Well, that's unfortunate. Are we just dead? I feel like this is something I lost to yesterday as well. The floofs coming in and giving all of the bonuses. I feel like that happened. It's a bummer when you have the Buried in Ice in hand, but you can't do anything about it here. So maybe we should have just gone for it. Like, the thing I started to look at this. Hang on, can we get out of this one? I don't think so. But let's find out real quick. Oh, we might have just gotten out of that one.
This is hot, you know.
You face a ghost.
Uh-oh. And then that takes us to 1. Alright. Uh-oh, squad. We might have snuck one in we didn't deserve. Uh-oh. But no, it's like when he has the massive board like that, maybe we should just go ahead and play the Buried in Ice. Since it just like so severely limits what they can do, and then it does let us just come in and play Ornn on the opponent's turn. So while he is going to have all those units on the board, we can come in on the following turn and open attack with Ornn. And I mean, that seems pretty decent. So let's boost the stats beforehand, so the stats also go onto the extra thing. Coming in for 24, he doesn't have 20 health of dudes out here. LOL. I guess we have to ask ourselves the question on occasion, huh? We usually pose this question to our lucky as shit opponents in the sense of should I buy a lottery ticket because this is my lucky day, or should I just stay completely away because I just wasted all of my luck on a random game of Legends of Runeterra? It's tough, but you know. Sometimes the shit swings both ways, and it certainly certainly swung our way in that one. All right, another nice double Omen Hawk draw. I will say a lot of times with Omen Hawk, I like to find these spots to where we can play both of them in the same turn. It gets you in that place to where when you're drawing the units with the stats, you have 2 units with +2/+2. Instead of 1 unit with +1/+1 and then another unit with +2/+2, and then the next unit with a +1/+1. It lets you really kind of come in and spread out or like stack up the stats instead of spreading them out. Doesn't matter if you just immediately draw the unit, but if you don't immediately draw the unit, then you get a little bit of extra power there. What do we want out of this? It's gonna take us a bit of time to get this stuff locked up onto the defectors, and they already have tough. Let's take the Pot of Pain. Where I'm kind of thinking with that is we're probably going to land in a spot to where we put the Pot of Pain onto the Broadwing. So we'll have to see if that's the way this comes out. You want to hang out, bro? You want to get in the old video? This is the dumb cat. This is Bernard. He acts like he wants to jump up here and then he walks away. Oh God, almost dropped him. No wonder he doesn't want to jump up here. Got you, bud. All right, let's see what happens. If this gets combat tricked, it's not the end of the world. And then if he doesn't have the trick, this is going to be spectacular. Okay. Here he is. He's calmed down. We get him in the video. Say, what up, Internet? I'm Bernard. I'm the Black Kitty. Here to have a happy Halloween. Poor kitties. The Black Kitty's got it rough these days, apparently. People are mean to him on Halloween. People don't want to adopt them because they don't look as good on Instagram. And so it's tough. It's a sad day for such wonderful kitties. This guy's a delight. So makes me sad to hear such things. But all right, we're just going to go ahead and take this. The thing with this next turn is we can open and Jarvan will hit the blocking Badger Bear. If he didn't have answers for the Defector before, he shouldn't have answers now, especially across these smaller units. And then this also puts you in a spot where you get to attack with Jarvan twice. So should be a pretty close to a knockout blow here. Rip it, roll it, smoke it, put it in your pipe. That was just match 2, right? Hang on. I think I got excited and marked a game win there. I was so hyped about winning that game too that I think I marked it a little early. Okay, I did. You guys get a third one. One more. Final battle coming at you. Oof. Oof. So, man, I've been listening to a podcast in the morning. It's called Strike Force 5. I don't know how popular it is, but the people in it are popular. It's so the writers' strike is going on in Hollywood, and the night show hosts, the talk show hosts, got together and made a podcast. Had the proceeds go to their writing team as they're out of work during the strike, and so it's Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert and John Oliver. And they're just talking about the late night scene. If you're around my age or older, you might remember back with like the transition during like the Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien and David Letterman kind of era, as to where it went quite poorly. There was a big a strike back then, and I believe essentially what happened was David Letterman owned his own production company. They weren't a part of the Writers Guild since Dave owned them. And then CBS bought his production company, and then they were able to continue producing the show throughout the strike, even though the other shows were kind of out. And so there was a lot of animosity towards Dave and his team, since they were essentially doing a workaround to break past the strike. And so there was some like bad blood there. And then whenever I forget how it happened on the other side, but I believe when I can't remember if Jay Leno and Conan were on the same network, but it may have been with Dave and Conan. But regardless, it was kind of expected that Conan on the Late Late Show would take over the Late Show as whoever the other person was retired. And then they were just kind of like, nah, we're not going to do that. And so that was where a lot of those names popped up, right? Conan instead went to TBS, and then that's where Jimmy Fallon and Stephen Colbert and all those other people came in. But where this is where this is going, where this has been is they've got Dave Letterman on there. Dave Letterman was a huge part of my my childhood. I used to, like, the thing I did when I was little, little being in like middle school, high school, is I would always stay up late to watch the beginning of David Letterman, which in kid time was kind of late. I wouldn't stay up that late now. I can't stay up till 11, but that was like it. I would always watch like the monologue and then the first little bits and then a little bit of the first interview if it was someone I thought was interesting, and then I would go to bed. Or if there was a band you really wanted to see, that you would stay up super late to catch them. But he was the one I always watched. He was the one I always enjoyed. I really enjoyed his kind of dry humor. And then he's kind of come back here recently on Netflix with his new interview show there. It's not new. It's a couple years old now at this point. But he was on the Strike Force 5 as well. It's very interesting interviews hearing from him. But coming into this matchup, nonetheless, I feel like the Galio Volibear is the one that we want to take out. I'm typically pretty fine about playing against Heimerdinger or Jayce these days. The hits to the nerf stick that came through didn't feel, particularly good for them. I think we still have pretty reasonable matchups in this space. And then we are going to go up against Janna. And so if there's ever a lineup to where we feel comfortable about banning Janna, I think that one's probably it. But I have had a lot of struggles against that, the Galio Volibear deck, and so I don't feel horrible kind of taking that one off the table. Now here, I'm just going to lead off with Omen Hawk. It does miss out on this like little bit of opportunity for Puff Cap from Teemo, but if Teemo gets blanked this turn, it feels pretty bad. And then if like missing out on that one Puff Cap isn't really that big of a deal, and so we can still just add him in now, continue on as normal. The thing we are going to look to do here is see if we can't bank up enough mana onto turn 4 to be able to Rocket Barrage a Janna. Perfect draw in the Puff Cap Peddler. We can actually get him up and running. Such a difference these peddlers make when they're 4/4s. Such an obnoxious unit, and what he's capable of doing now. Okay. I will say the Teemos aren't super important in these matches. The threat of Teemo is a pretty big deal, but we very rarely get those flipped Teemo hits in. What you're going to see is when we start trying to kind of churn at the opponent is when they're going to be at like 25 cards, 25 Puff Caps, and we can play Karina to kind of decimate the opponent. It's very rare to have those Karinas that come in and deal like 17 damage. It's possible. It's not something that's completely off the table. It's just not particularly common. Now here, this is always kind of interesting to me, and like how harsh do we want to try and go after the Janna, right? Do we actually want to wait until next turn and just go for the big value play? The answer is no. You don't want to do that. You just want to get her off the board. You don't want their cards to be reduced in cost next turn. And so you just go ahead and take that away from them. I'm fine to send this in. If he's going to say Nilah and play a burn spell to take the Peddler off the board, that's not horrible. We don't need to just sit around and landmark with him, and we don't have the hand to let us landmark with him, and so I think the attack's pretty good. Probably should have attacked with Omen Hawk in this space. Yep. Like if he blocks Omen Hawk and just takes 4 damage, that feels like a pretty big win for us as well. So maybe if we could have that one back, I should probably take it. But I wanted to open. I didn't want him to play a random 3/1 on the turn and then shut down the rest of our attacks, but I feel like we missed a point of damage there.
Where do you stand on cold shots?
So how big do we want to go? We have a couple of options, right? We can just play Sejuani this turn, which I'm kind of leaning towards. Or we can add the Tusk Speaker, but we can't really spend our mana. The other thing is we have these Insider Knowledges that I don't really want to play. It's going to help his deck more than ours. He's only got 3 Puff Caps in hand at this point. But
Carved from the savage cold.
let's just go ahead and add Sejuani. Like, this is one of these spots to where it's kind of close. If we pass and he passes, how bad does it feel? It doesn't seem horrible, but it doesn't seem awesome. Looks like we're about to lose our Sejuani. That's okay. You fought hard, girl. You fought hard. Might have to start popping these insider knowledges, though. It's just when a bunch of your cards activate after drawing 2 extra cards in the turn, and we're dropping insider knowledges, like we could probably find a situation to where fine, we have to get the damage in. Oh, this doesn't feel good. I mean, there's not too much he could be dropping on us at this point. And we didn't draw anything useful. Double bummer. Well, I'm going to keep at it. You know, I feel like cards probably don't matter at this point. If we're going to get into the space to where, you know, if we get the Puff Captains in his deck, he's going to be drawing a million cards every turn anyways. And so I don't think giving him those few extra cards is going to be that big of a deal. Yep.
What's on without me?
Something the matter?
Say, not today, Tusk Speaker. He says, not today. I will fight my hardest. All right. Ugh. This has been a both weird and gross game. Hey, hit one of those puff caps. we only got like 2 in there. One left, but he's certainly drawing a bunch. The second Karina. This is not the game where Karina's gonna shine. not the game.
Perhaps the answer lies in others, not yourself.
It's been a very weird draw. He's got to be hitting more, right? I mean, he has 1 million mana and he's picked up like 1,000 cards this turn. Janna's gonna just super flip on this next turn. Yep. This is tough. We don't have really any good draws to pick up here.
You're out of here.
I'm going to go ahead and block. It's very, very high chance that Tusk Speaker just gets killed by a burn spell next turn when he gets to spend, or when he gets to draw his next 5 cards. And so it's like, I think we're in this spot to where Karina's going to have to actually do some attacking. And I want that unit just kind of cleared out. So I think this is it, like in terms of what we're going to have to do, just start planting flash bomb traps. He's going to draw a ton of cards, so maybe it'll kill off kind of some of these side units, but I don't feel great about this game plan. That's for certain. That is for certain. We'll hang on to the Tusk Speaker at this point. I worry a little bit about our health total, and we can't really get any compelling combats happening here. All right, well there go all the flash bombs. Finally, a Puff Cap Peddler. Maybe this has been a weird one. Like, I know that we were aggressive with that Puff Cap Peddler earlier, but we didn't. We didn't have any spells to really like combo off with him. We've been sitting around on these 2 harsh winds. Maybe we should have just kept him around anyways.
Endless delights unfold around us. Rejoice!
I sense a joy.
It's tough.
By my winds shall the
Like,
downtrodden rise.
I just felt like we were going to have more follow-up. It's like if we ever found a unit, like if we found just like literally any unit, like I feel like that attack was going to work out fine, but maybe if we had like Glacial Saurian in hand, then that would have been more okay than it was. Because we did get kind of stuck there without any follow-up. And so maybe we should have just gone into landmark mode. Get all the zings rolling through.
I rally the mighty wind. Blown away.
Alright, well I'm going to hang on to our Omen Hawk just in the event that we pick up a Glacial Saurian. I want to ensure that we're able to draw another card next turn. But that 1 point of damage from the Pool Shark shouldn't be that big of a deal. Shouldn't be. Shouldn't be, they say.
Let this draft guide your hand.
Didn't kill anything? That's a bummer. That's a bummer. We don't even have any spells to cast at this point. Alright, this one's done. Oof. Yeah, I think... I also... the next thing with that's I didn't really, pick up on the kind of deck the opponent was playing. That's not the kind of Nilah Janna I'm used to seeing, as to where it's slower with the Wizened Helmsman and the landmark in it. And so... had I known that's what we were getting ourselves into, then we would have probably definitely left our Puffcap Peddler at home. Right? He didn't need to deliver 30 Puffcaps. He just needed to put a handful of them in the opposing deck, and then he's off to the races. All right, interesting start. I was going to say I'm going to lead off with Omen Hawk, right? I don't want to play Teemo and just have him get Quietest on the first turn. But picking up the second Teemo, I was going to add our Teemo directly to the board so that if he plays Quietest, we can still play both units next turn. But with his Forge Chief coming in, we'll just go ahead and make the trade.
Nothing like the great outdoors.
Teemos can come in now. We'll try and play the Tusk Speaker on his turn, so helps level up the Sejuani. Alright.
I did my best.
You did your best, Teemo. Battle time.
Swiftly. Not for everyone.
Alright, he's well protected. I'd like we need the Teemo to kind of stick around for a bit so this Saurian can draw the extra cards. Losing out on the bird. It's like you typically can keep Omen Hawk alive if you want to. Like if you want to not get the Omen Hawk involved in early trades so you can draw Glacial Saurians, you typically get the chance. Your opponent doesn't usually go out of their way to remove them, but they definitely go out of their way to remove Teemo. And so expecting Teemo to just hang out on the board until until the Saurian comes down, it's kind of a tall order.
Armed and ready.
Alright, let's attack. He's not going to want to block because he hasn't played a 6-cost spell yet, so I don't think this Hextech Handler is going to get involved in combat. But we'll see. If he blocks and then casts Mystic Shots onto Teemo, we will try to protect the Teemo. Again, we want to get this Saurian on board next turn. But We'll see how this goes forth. And we did just pick up 3 sisters, so we can kind of go for a bigger attack this turn in terms of going for the bigger spell. I think I'm on board with this. Right, the thing to always explain from the days of Expedition was that you would try to get your opponent to, you know, like 8 or 10, and then you would find this point in the game to where you realized you were just never going to deal another point of combat damage, and you were directly in to burn mode, right? And I think that's kind of the, you know, same presence with that attack there, in the sense that you know, it's very easy for the opponent to shut us out of combats in these upcoming turns. Look at that, he kills the Tusk Speaker, we get the free draw. I love it. All right. We got good combats here. The only downside to this one is going to be if he has a piercing light or whatever the deal 5 drain is. But we don't have a great way around it. He's probably not going to die in this combat. So I feel like he'll probably just get to play it post-combat anyways.
They'll never know what hit 'em.
All right, we're wearing him down, right? We're getting him to 5. Our Teemo's gonna flip. Maybe. And this is actually one of these spots to where the insider knowledge is pretty good. Like, you typically have the insider knowledge as a card as to where, you know, your opponent has their lethal attack on the stack, and then you play the insider knowledge to try and deal like 3 or 4 damage to him. But, like, the way that this game is sequenced out, the opponent could draw like 9 cards next turn, and there's no way they're going to be able to play all of them. And so, you know, it feels like it's in a pretty good spot to just be dropping in these combats. But let's put the Omen Hawk in first. If we pick up an interesting unit, it's going to maybe we'll be able to play it. Don't need it. Sweet.
A Vandal Scout leaves no trace.
All right. The final battle, the classic Jax Ornn versus Heimerdinger. Let's see what we can do. I'm curious how much these decks are still running stuff like Quietus. You know, it's not a card that's like particularly strong in the kind of Warden of the Tribes meta. So I'm wondering, I'm curious. But here, I'm not excited about just dropping Jax on this turn. We're gonna have to wait until we have the Sky Splitter protection. But we can start ramping up quickly after this. We can add Jax next turn, protect with the Sky Splitter. 2 turns from now, we can drop Combat Cook, or we'll see what comes off the top of our deck. Got the Omen Hawk boosting up our friends. Saurian. What you got? Centuries ago, Jax lost his homeland to the Void. Now he travels the world, searching for warriors with the strength of will and the sheer gall to one day stand against that terrible foe. The Void is the Void. The Void's not a person. That doesn't make sense. Or is that the foe in the sense of like your enemies, the outstanding army? Look at that. I'm fucking around on the screen and I saw destroy equipment pop up. It's like, I guess Quietus is on the table today. what do we got in here? We did just draw Ornn for the turn, so I think we'll want to go with the upcycled Rake. No other weapon masters in sight. I want to guarantee we get the highest powered one here. If he's got a Hex Obliterator or whatnot, kind of is what it is, but I think this is the strongest one for this particular turn and the strongest one to attach to Ornn. I'm going to keep attacking, by the way. Get these extra level ups on Jax. He's going to be pretty relevant, and then we can look to, say, just put the scout equipment over onto Glacial Saurian on turn 6. I like it.
Come and get it. Come on then.
The other big, the big note off of that is the Scout Rake onto Glacial Saurian makes it 8 power. 8 power is what it takes to flip Ornn. Another big opportunity for greatness. All right, the Donger rolls in. So are we going to play around something like Hex Obliterator? I mean, the way that this turn is looking to sequence up, so like we're gonna play this Weaponsmith's Apprentice, and then we're going to put the Rake on.
Kindle picked me.
I mean, we just picked up a Sky Splitter. It has to be so safe at this point. And we're gonna absolutely dome him with Overwhelms this turn. We think we just won the game. Is that accurate? 9 Overwhelm into 1, and then 9 Overwhelm into 1 is 16. And then he has to stop the Jax as well. We can get that up to 18 if we Sky Splitter before we attack. I think so. Finger math with me. You doing those mathematics out there? Are you all familiar with the rapper Riff Raff? Is that what people still call him today? Is it a hip-hop artist? Is it a rapper? I don't know. Maybe I'm too old. I don't know the words the kids use anymore. But there's a guy named Riff Raff. If you've seen, he has a very distinct look. If you haven't seen a picture of him, you might have seen him at this point. But I love a lot of his lyrics. He likes to say, "I keep my paper stacking, a motherfuck subtraction." Something along those lines. I'm losing it as we come in through here, but my wife always gets upset with his Dolce and Gabbana song because he says Dolce, or he doesn't say it in a manner that she approves of the of the way it's being said. He knows all about the mathematics. He keeps his paper stacking. He motherfucks subtraction. Because see, what he's saying is that he always makes more money, right? He doesn't subtract from his balance sheet. He's always out here making the big dollars, and you know, that's pretty noble if you ask me. That's a pretty good thing to be doing, you know. So Jax is going to come through for 1. Or the Omen Hawk will come through for 1. That's enough. GG it. Well played. Not a bad set of battles. We can pull this up, talk about it a little bit more. And so, good set of games. I feel like we got a good touch on the lineup. The Teemo Sejuani being the new one that we're bringing into the mix, and the strategy seems kind of okay. You know, again in that last match, kind of scary in the sense that maybe we should just ban Janna. Like, it's so weird. Like, I think back to Hearthstone. There was a point in Hearthstone to where there was the Infinite Patrons deck. I assume that's where the Runeterra player Infinity Patrons took his name from. But It was a card to where, like, if the unit took a damage, it would summon another copy of itself. And then there was another card that gave all of your units haste or charge or challenger, whatever the free attack as soon as you play it kind of thing is called. And you could get into these big cycles to where you would get a patron and then deal a damage to it, get another patron and deal damage to it, get another patron. Then you attack like the 3/3 into your opponent's 2/2, and then you get another patron, and then you would play a whirlwind and kill some of them off and get some new ones. And then there was a card called Frothing Berserker that whenever a unit took damage, it would get a bonus attack. And so as you're sitting here cycling through all of these units, you could play an AoE and he would get like plus 20 attack or something. It was a very big combo deck. And what Blizzard kind of found at the time was that, like, as you played the deck through like bronze through diamond, the win rate was within something that was acceptable. But when you got into masters, like the people in masters playing down just annihilated everyone. And then there was another break to where the people at like very high masters just literally annihilated everyone else beneath them with these just like monstrous win rates. And so they had to come out and make a nerf in the sense that while this is fair for like 99% of the player base, that 1% of player that is like ultra proficient with the patron's deck just doesn't lose. And it made the competitive play look pretty obnoxious because literally everyone was just playing the patrons. And that's how I kind of feel like the Janna decks are, right? You go and you look at the stats websites and you say, it's not that bad. These decks are like 54% favorites over Janna. But it's just like as I play against a lot of these kind of top tier Janna players, I just never feel like I'm actually at the advantage. And so that's kind of like one of the negatives to leaving Janna up. But I also kind of feel like the way I take a lot of strategies into best of 3 is we'll either look to ban the top deck or beat the top deck. And then we want to be kind of like okay against the other one. So let's say with this previous format, we wanted to just ban Janna and be good enough against Warden, like maybe not a positive win rate, maybe not a negative, like in the coin flippy kind of space. And then we're looking to crush third decks. And maybe that's the space that I'm just like not quite in on yet, as to where Janna is that deck to where, we're a 45% underdog against it all the time. But we're strong against their other third decks, especially coming out here bringing the weird shit like Teemo. And so maybe it's okay. This is still, again, the lineup I'm kind of intent on bringing to the open. I feel pretty good about it. I like how the things have went. I feel like we had a good showcase in here. Not only like we didn't speak to how good just like Omen Hawk and Saurian are. I just kind of felt like it had to be noticeable that our units are just bigger than our opponent's units. And so it's like in that last Vayne game to where we had the 5/4 scout cultists and the opponent just couldn't block them because they were too big. That's the kind of stuff that just comes up game after game after game, and that's the thing we have across all of our decks. But I feel like we had a good showcase of the different ways that the games actually close out and the different way the games sequence, and to where it doesn't feel like we're just playing 80% the same deck with just some minor differences across the execution. It feels like these are actually 3 distinct decks that happen to have the Omen Hawk Saurian package in it. And so that at least makes me feel kind of okay in the sense that, again, we're not going to hopefully get KO'd by a singular lineup, just looking to beat one of these decks. I feel like the execution is different enough to where that's not quite a thing. But nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.